Hello and welcome to tutorial number 2 of the series, where we basically create a to-do app in iOS using Swift and Xcode. This tutorial will carry on from the first one, where we laid out all of the interface components we're going to use. And now what we're going to do is we're going to link them up with some code. If you came from the previous tutorial or didn't, the code is on GitHub, so you can start at any point really. Just grab the code from there and let's get going. So yeah, as you can see, we've got all of our interface components here that we're going to use. Now we need to make some custom classes for the view controllers. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on this folder here in the to-do app. Then we're going to click new file, new Swift file. We're going to call this home view controller, if I could type. Okay, so we're prompted with the blank file now. To create a custom view controller class, basically this code will be in control of this view that we made previously. We need to first import UIKit, which gives us access to things like view controllers. Then we need to type class, because we're making a class. We're going to call it home view controller. Then we're going to use a colon, because we're saying it's of type UI view controller. And then we're going to use the parentheses, and that's the blank class made. Now let's implement some of the standard methods that we'll use when working with the class. So let's type override, because this is a method from UI view controller. Override func view did load. Then we're going to type super, which refers to the UI view controller. View did load. Cool. And that should all be fine. What we now need to do is we need to link it to our UI component in our storyboard. So we're going to copy the class name. I'm going to click on the view controller, and we're going to say, we're going to come over to here. We're going to go to the identity inspector, and we're going to, where it says class, it says view controller. We're going to delete that. We can either use the drop down here. I prefer just pasting it, because it means that I get it right, especially when you're working with bigger projects. So home view controller. Then what else I'm going to do is I'm going to paste it into storyboard ID, and now this could become useful later. For me, it's kind of just a habit, because I use storyboard IDs quite a lot, and we'll probably come across that pretty soon. Okay, so we've got that basic class set out now for the home view controller. We need to do now need to do the same for the add view controller. So let's do the same thing. Let's go to do app. Let's go new file, new Swift file. Let's just call it add view controller. Once again, we're faced with the same screen, so let's do exactly the same. Import UIKit class add view controller colon UI view controller, then space it out a bit. Override func view did load super dot view did load. And if we look at the code, it is identical apart from the class name. We can't have two classes with the same name, for obvious reasons. Now let's do the same thing that we did. Let's add it into our storyboard. So let's go across and let's click on the view controller, and you can see when we click off it, it just says view controller. Let's go paste that in there, add view controller, and now see the class has been applied. Then in the storyboard idea, we're doing the same thing. Okay, cool. So we've got our custom classes implemented. Let's just see if it runs and builds. Gives you time to have a quick drink. It's like green tea in an old coffee cup, but it's fine. And it should run without a problem. Let me just open the, I don't know why, sometimes when I build, it closes my debug bar, which is annoying. And there you can see it all loads okay, but doesn't really do much yet. Cool. So now we're going to start linking in some more of the stuff that we need. Now in the home view controller, we are using a table view, and this will probably be one of the main parts of our app. So what we need to do is, to use the table view, we need to say that our view does table view related stuff. So here, the first one after the colon is the super view. So that refers, well, the super class, I mean. So that refers to basically the home view controller is a subclass of the UI view controller. It has the same functions, methods. It's very similar. It's basically a copy, but we're making a custom copy of it and calling it home view controller. But now we're gonna basically say that this view controller can do a bit more than just be a UI view controller. We're gonna say it adheres to other protocols as well, and we're gonna say that it can also be a UI table view delegate and a UI table view data source. If I can spell, let's try typing that again. Table view data source. Cool. And now we should get a warning, because it's going to say it doesn't adhere to the protocol, I believe. Yeah, it doesn't conform to the protocol, which is as we expect, because we're saying that it can do UI table view delegate things and it can do UI table view data source things, but we haven't actually implemented them. So there are a couple things that we need to do to make the error go away and to basically conform to the protocols. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, first of all, what we even need to do before this is we need to link the table view to the view controller. Now it's pretty easy. We go to the main storyboard. Let's open the assistant editor. It should show you the home view controller. If it doesn't, make sure that's set to automatic. And then click on the table view. So I've got the table view clicked here. Now you can control click and drag from either here, or I can click from here and just drag it in here. Let's create an outlet which basically connects the interface component to our code. So let's call it table view. Cool. Now we can start really connecting the app up. So let's go back. And now let's say table view. I'm going to say self just so it's clearer, even though it's pretty clear. Dot table view dot delegate equals self, and self dot table view dot data source equals self. Basically saying that this controller is going to handle the delegate and the data source. So now we just need to implement a couple of functions for the table view to actually function and adhere to the protocols. And there's two key ones that we need to do. So let's do func table view number of rows in section, which is key. And then it's a function that we're using, and it returns an integer. So we need return. And because we don't have any rows yet, I'm just going to put 0. Then the next function that we need is func table view, and it's self for index path. Where is it? Somewhere down here. Yeah, table view self for index path. And let's just create a little test cell here. Even though we've set our rows to 0 for now, we can just say let cell equals UI table view cell, and let's make it a blank one using the brackets to construct a blank instance, essentially like a blank copy of the class. Then we can say cell dot set title, or cell dot, I think it's cell dot title, cell dot text label dot text equals test return cell. So what we've done here is we've created a blank cell and we've just set the text in the cell to test. Then we're returning the cell. As you can see, it's the little arrow basically means it wants you to return a UI table view cell, and that is what we've made, and that's what we're returning. So let's set the amount of rows to 1, and let's run it and see what happens. Come on. And there we go. And we've got test. We've got our first table view row in, which it works, but it's not very useful at present. But we can leave it for now because we're essentially just connecting the interface elements. At the minute in this tutorial, we're not going into how we add stuff. So let's just carry on connecting the interface elements for now. So the next thing that we need to do is we need to connect our plus button, our add button. And we're going to go to the main storyboard and we're going to open the assistant editor again. Now it's changed the manual for some reason. I don't really understand why it does that sometimes, but it's kind of annoying. But it's okay. So let's go to the add button and we can control drag. I'm not sure I'm clicked on it there, just make sure it's, yeah, okay, cool. Then I'm going to drag that over here and I'm going to click add to, oh no, I don't want an outlet actually, I don't want an outlet. So I kind of rushed there and nearly made a mistake. So let's control click again from the bar button item and let's drag into the controller. And instead of a connection outlet, we're going to create a connection action, which we create an action for the button to be pressed. So let's call it add button pressed. And for now, let's just print hello. Let's bring this back up and let's click run. And it's closed that again. Let's open it back up. Now if we click add and we can see it's connected okay. So every time we're hitting the add button, it's calling the add button pressed and then it's running print hello. So that's cool. So that basically works. I'm going to change that to add just to make it clearer. So that's another piece of our functionality implemented. Well, partially implemented. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to need the add button to show this view so that we can actually add something. So we need, for this, we need a sige. I still don't know how you say it. I'm sure that's kind of right. But let's do this by control clicking from the view controller and then dragging in, so from the home view controller into the add view controller. You just control click and then we click present modally. So we're creating a modal sige, which basically means that we're going to make it so when we click the add button, this will pop up from underneath and it'll kind of be essentially floating on top. Then once it's the done button's pressed, it'll pop back down, which hopefully will look nice. So now we can see it's created a little arrow here. Let's click the arrow and go to the inspector. And all we're going to do is we're going to enter an identifier for the sige and we're going to call it add sige. That'll do. Just so that we can trigger it with the identifier. It's a nice way of doing it. So now that we've got essentially the transition set up, we need to call the sige so that it makes the jump. So let's go to the add button pressed method in the home view controller and let's go self we're referring to the home view controller dot perform segue with identifier. Cool. So that's all to complete the function, and now let's put a string in here using the double speech marks, and let's call it. I can't even remember what I just named that. Add segue. Copy that. Okay, cool. So we've pasted that in, and then sender, we're going to use self. So let's drag this wider a bit. Cool. Just a bit of tidying up. Now let's run it to see if it works. There we go. Now the done button's not going to work yet because we haven't actually finished implementing. But at least we know that the add button works and pulls the view over as we expected, which is good. Cool. So what we're going to do is we're going to handle adding the text in the next tutorial. So this tutorial was mainly about connecting the interface components into code, and we're going to finish the implementation off in the next tutorial because it involves handling the text received in here, as well as some other bits, as well as passing the data between the view controllers. So that's going to be done in the next tutorial, and that's it for this one. See you in the next one. Bye bye.